We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's Moronica.
Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's Week in Moronica for the week ended April 6, 2018. The week's news that made you scratch your head, cringe, or just say, that's moronic. That was a pretty stupid week. Let's get right to it. This Justin Trudeau again, not making the list of Moronica. However, cloudy with a chance of cocaine. We have well, look what this woman said. She was found with cocaine in her purse, and she blamed it on the wind. She says, I don't know anything about any cocaine. It was a windy day. It must have flown through the window and into my purse. Uh-oh. Knife control out of London. And, well, it's knife control out of control in London. And we've got the mayor on the job. So the first thing he's done is he's put together a video of these fine young lads who are basically saying they're the future of London and they want to make sure that they're still around, so they're not carrying knives. However, the criminals are carrying knives, and I'm not sure what a video does to tell the world that these people are not carrying knives. Well, the mayor goes to further levels of, well, shall we say, I'm not sure. Here he's saying that every Londoner, don't risk your future by carrying a knife. London needs you alive. What if that knife might save a life? Not quite so sure what he's getting at here. Well, it goes even further. No excuses. There is never a reason to carry a knife. And who does, who will be caught, and they will feel the full force of the law. So says our mayor, while he's not busy fighting hate speech, as the murder rate in London has now surpassed New York's, even with strict gun control, and now they're looking to have strict knife control to calm down the just skyrocketing murder rate. But here's what the Metropolitan Police are focused on. They've got 900, count them, specialist officers across London dedicated to investigating all hate crime. So they're going to knock out hate crime, but it doesn't seem like they're making much of a dent on actual murder. But they've got a video on it, and if you just watch it, there they are. They are the future. They are not going to carry knives, and now that'll solve London's problem. And I think that whole scene is moronic. Now, Kirsten Gillibrand, if you don't know who this woman is, she used to be a Clinton fan, and she used the Clintons and their endorsements to become a senator from New York. And then when the Me Too movement came aboard, she decided, well, we're going to throw the Clintons overboard because Bill Clinton seems to have some issues with his treatment of women. Well, Miss Gillibrand has some issues, too, with the facts. There was an incident during the week. A gentleman named Sahid Vassell was going around the town of New York and pointed what appeared to be a loaded gun, or just a gun, in people's faces, including individuals and one woman and a small child. Police were called. They arrived on the scene. Mr. Vassell waved the same weapon, or what appeared to be a weapon, at the officers, and they shot him. Christine Gillibrand, not one to even think about the facts, worry about the facts, investigate the facts, says, yesterday another unarmed black man and another tragedy. This is happening too often. Yeah, guys running around pointing guns in people's faces. Yeah, I think that's probably might be happening too often. We need the answers on Sahid Vassell being shot and killed with full transparency and accountability. Well, the New York Police Department did put out a video showing this gentleman terrorizing the town with what appeared to be a gun. Here he is walking down the street, fine young man, pointing that in someone's face. And people reporting there's a guy in a brown jacket walking around pointing what appears to be a gun. There's a woman and her child. Wow, there you go. What a fine man. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and they just shot him. There was another 911 callers. Here we go. This guy's not dangerous. You can't tell that that isn't a gun. Here he is again. At this point, responding officers discharge their weapons. Well, Kirsten Gillibrand, nice job. Now, here we go. Kamala Harris jokes on national TV about killing President Trump. She was on TV with Ellen DeGeneres, and I don't know if it was a joke, it was a setup, but they were just talking about going into an elevator with the president. And I don't know what the question was, but basically she said, does one of us have to come out alive? And some people took that as a death threat. And there she is, yucking it up with Ellen DeGeneres. Now, this is one that I encounter a lot myself, personally. Here's a Texas councilwoman. And she apparently hears a couple of teens or sees a couple of teens. One of them might have a MAGA hat on. Well, she's going to give them a piece of her mind. She doesn't like the fact that someone's in the store. She's offended. They got MAGA hats on. And she's going to let them know. So she starts cussing and swearing at them. Now, I've encountered this personally. If you are talking to a friend or someone, and within earshot of somebody who, I guess, is a social justice warrior or an anti-Trumper, and you just mention Trump's names, their ears perk up. They are ready. They want to hear first if you're going to trash Trump, in which case they'll feel free to come over and pile on. Two, if you don't say anything negative about Trump, they will. They'll make sure they let you know that Trump is a bad guy. And apparently this councilwoman has this Trump derangement syndrome because she launched into a profanity-laced tirade at these poor young girls who are just wearing the apparel. Jim Acosta doesn't know when to stop. So they're having this children's Easter event where the president stands there, his wife reads the books to the kids, they roll the eggs, the Easter bunny is there, and Acosta's yelling and screaming, "Didn't you kill DACA at the children's Easter event?" Now the kids don't know what DACA is, they just hear kill and Trump, and it's like, well, did you kill the Easter eggs? Did you kill the Easter bunny? I won't let it alone. Interestingly enough, and it's not included in this week Moronica, but it might as well be, Sean Hannity also picked up on this with the late night comic Jimmy Kimmel, who made a joke about the way Melania Trump reads. She was reading from the Easter book, I guess it was Dr. Seuss, and she said this and that with her accent, and Kimmel made fun of it. That's what comedians do. Sean Hannity then launched into a whole tirade about, defense of the First Lady and how dare he, which I think was a bit overreaction, but then it got really nasty and they both started trading barbs, calling each other perverts, and then Sean Hannity raised all of the times that Jimmy Kimmel had either dressed in blackface or had sketches which would be seen as being offensive to women. And it became a big deal, and I guess they're still fighting it out. Now, Dan Rather on fake news. Nah, there's no point even listening to Dan Rather on fake news. Former Attorney General. Now, here's a guy, Preet Bharara. He tweeted out, oh, wouldn't it be great if Bezos would buy Twitter and then, just delete Trump's account. Now, okay, that's a nice little fantasy there. But this is a guy who's supposed to be an attorney general. He's supposed to be upholding the blind laws. The justice is blind. And as Glenn Greenwald pointed out, 40,000 people retweeted it, 160,000 people liked it. He called it this moronic, plutocratic direct fantasizing about a billionaire white knight who comes in and saves us all by buying communications platforms and nobly censoring political enemies. That's pretty moronic to even suggest, but this guy is not moronic. He's supposedly an intelligent guy, but I'm not quite so sure. Now, our friend Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy loves to give the long interrogation of supposed political enemies, but it appears to be nothing more than political theater. He'll sit there, and isn't it true? And isn't it true? And why do you do this? And why do you do that? Well, now he's taken to giving the president advice, and he's appearing on CNN and other places, giving what I would think would be horrific advice. Donald Trump is not the subject or the target of an investigation. And we've seen how when people are going to talk to the FBI, are going to talk, and they're somehow possibly involved, or possibly a subject, or possibly a target, but they're kind of assured that they're not, well, then what they get is an immunity in order to speak. Otherwise, there's really no upside to speaking unless they are subpoenaed to speak. In any event, Donald Trump has suggested he would speak to Mueller, but many attorneys are saying it's not a bright idea to talk to Mueller, seeing how we've gotten other people who have spoken to Mueller, namely Flynn is one of them, who spoke to the FBI, and he didn't know that he was the subject or target of an investigation, and he got nailed for what's called a process crime. He didn't get nailed for doing anything wrong other than lying to the FBI about what they asked him about during his meeting. Now, of course, the more you talk, the more whatever you say can be deemed to be a lie. But here's Trey Gowdy, prosecutor. Now, is he on the Republican side? I don't know. He says if Trump has nothing to hide, he should sit down and tell him what you know. And this is not the first time he's made this statement. He's said in the past that if your client, he said this as advice to Trump's attorney, if your client is not guilty, then stop acting like that. This is not an issue of whether your client is guilty. It's an issue of whether you have reason to believe that the special prosecutor is not on your side, and he has every reason to believe that the special prosecutor is not on his side, because if the special prosecutor really was investigating Russian collusion, this would be a counterintelligence probe, and they'd be investigating and talking to all witnesses, including the Clinton campaign, people in the Clinton campaign, people in the Sanders campaign, Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, everybody who was involved. No, instead, what we've seen is the only investigation is into Trump subordinates, which means that somehow one could draw the conclusion that Trump himself is the target and or the subject. And by coming out and saying Trump is not currently the target of a criminal investigation, you could see how that might be viewed as a way of luring Trump in to say, look, you're not a target now. And then after he speaks, he becomes one. Trey Gowdy, don't know if it's moronic, but it's certainly suspect, the advice that you're giving. Let's get back to some more Moronica. Jeb Bush. Now here's a guy who got his handed to him in the 2016 campaign, low energy Jeb. And yeah, here it says, no clash. Jeb Bush goes after Trump by smearing his 12-year-old. He said something like, well, now I'm going to go back to my family, to my kids who actually love me. Where does he come off with that? Love a Muslim. Now, this one was a hashtag that was trending, and I'm not quite sure why it was. But it says here, Twitter moments are great. People are vowing to love a Muslim amidst an anti-Islamic phobia campaign. Now, apparently there was another campaign equally ridiculous. I don't know if it was called Hate a Muslim or whatever. But these campaigns, it just shows how foolish. Both of these campaigns, love a Muslim, hate a Muslim, how foolish and self-important Twitter has become. People are going to stand with the Muslims. What does that even mean? Stand with them against some idiots who are writing something, hate a Muslim or something like that. It's moronic. All right, Ralph Norman. Uh-oh, here he is. This moron pulls out a loaded gun to make a point about safety. And he says something like, what is it? He says something like, I'm not going to become Kathy Griffin. What are you going to do? Wave your... This is moronic. You're not making a point about safety by waving a gun around at your constituents and saying no one's going to shoot. First of all, someone can shoot him, whether he has a gun or not. The only thing, I don't know, this is pretty moronic. It speaks for itself. His name is Ralph Norman. Uh-oh, here we go. Ted Kennedy. Now, this is the New York Times, and they have some really moronic editorials. In Chappaquiddick, there's a new movie out about Ted Kennedy's driving a woman off a bridge and then leaving her there and going back to his hotel suite or wherever he went, and then calling up the his advisors, many of which were involved in the Cuban Missile Crisis, having a 6 or 7 hour meeting about what we're going to do about this and how are we going to explain this to the media, before even calling the police. Meantime, the woman drowns. There was no chance to save her. So there's a movie about that. I haven't seen it. I think it came out on Friday. I probably won't ever see it. But in the New York Times, it says, Chappaquiddick, many scenes cross from dramatic interpretation, which is what a movie is, a dramatic interpretation, to outright character assassination. Well, I think he assassinated his own character by his actions. Leaving the scene of a crime, going home, drying off, sobering up, convening a Cuban Missile Crisis style meeting, determining what you're going to do, and then finally going to the media and saying, oh, there's a dark cloud hanging over the Kennedys, and acting as if somehow this happened to him. You know, my brother got shot, my older brother died in World War II, both brothers got shot, and now they drove my car off the bridge. What kind of nonsense is that? That somehow he is a victim in all of this, and that somehow they are assassinating his character. His own actions did it. New York Times opinion, that's moronic. Here, Twitter moments again. I like this one. Miley Cyrus embraces Easter in Vogue shoot. No, she didn't. She didn't embrace Jack. She's dressed in very provocative clothing. This is not embracing Easter. This is embracing racy. Twitter moments. Uh-oh, Elon Musk. Now, this was moronic. April Fool's. This guy says that as a joke. And he doesn't just say it once and leave it there. He makes like 17 tweets about Tesla going bankrupt. Now, we're so bankrupt. This is like the biggest bankruptcy. Now, many a truth said in jest. If you really look at the finances of Tesla, they should be bankrupt, other than they have a big cash position because they sold a lot of equity to people who believe this nonsense. The company sells just a few. I don't even think they've sold more than 200,000 cars. They don't sell many cars. They've had issues with them blowing up. They're very expensive cars. The company is government subsidized. It's no joke that the company easily could be considered a bankruptcy target. You know, it's not like it's Apple saying this, that has $300 billion in cash, or a company that's doing really well. So, but again, he's boy genius, and he's supposed to know everything. And here he is now. Mark my words. Artificial intelligence is more dangerous than nukes. And so is stupidity, or Moronica. Jamie Dimon. Uh-oh. Immigration reform is tearing apart U.S. society and holding back the economy. I don't think so. I thought that was Bitcoin, Mr. Diamond. Immigration reform has been, quote, on the table for at least 10 years. It is not holding the country's economy back, and it is tearing apart only those families and their friends and relatives that are subject to their personal plight. It is not holding back the economy. But that's Jamie Dimon and his. You see, if you have a monopoly, or you just run a massive company, and it gets its way, whatever it does, you don't really need to have that much of an insight. You just need to have the pocketbook to pay the fines. Uh-oh, Madeline, not so bright. Another one. This is New York Times opinion. She writes an opinion. She has the gall to write an opinion that we must stop Trump before it's too late. She's concerned that fascism is creeping. Now, this is a woman who, on 60 Minutes, was asked by this woman here, I don't remember her name, whether, that there had been reports that 500,000 children died in Iraq. Was it worth it? And she says, yes, we think the price was worth it. And she's worried about Trump fascism. Pretty moronic. Emma Gonzalez. So this is the David Hogg's classmate. I don't know what she's talking about here. The school is now saying that you have to have these clear backpacks to bring to school at the Parkland school. Okay. And David Hogg says that is a First Amendment violation. He's so concerned about the Bill of Rights now. And Emma Gonzalez is saying that The problem with this is that there's always a company that's going to be willing to fall in line and make the clear backpacks. Yeah, that's called capitalism, but I guess she doesn't get that. Now, this one is great. This is Moronica. MSNBC. I think they're pointing out a big fact here. Illegal border crossings just hit a 46-year low. So why is President Trump sending the National Guard to the border? Okay. Here's the number. 310,000 legal crossings. That's probably 310,531. That's probably 310,531. Too many illegal crossings. So maybe that's why. Just because this has happened in the past and you had millions before and now it's only 300,000, you shouldn't try to stop that flow. Uh-oh. This isn't moronic. This is just ironic. Bernie and Trump bash tax scamazon. So Trump has been bashing Bezos for his ownership in the Washington Post. He's bashing Amazon for antitrust, not paying taxes, for its cozy relationship or cozy deal with the U.S. Post Office. And Bernie Sanders, they asked Bernie, here it comes, Bernie, do you think that Amazon has too much power?
That's right. I think that Amazon has too much power and
Go Bernie. You agree with Donald Trump. Now, Donald Mueller, the special prosecutor. Now, he's been at this for a year and a half. Well, he's nailed another big fish. This guy, he's nailed Alex van der Zwaan. He is a Dutch lawyer, and he's been sentenced in Robert Mueller's Russian probe. And he's sentenced for 30 days for lying. Good work, Robert Mueller. Year and a half, millions spent, and you got yourself a Dutch lawyer to lie. Hard to do. Spotify, another unprofitable multi-billion-dollar company, goes public. The company went out at under $30 billion. Most likely doesn't make or never will make a profit. This is my second to last Moronica, but this one is my favorite. Wife of Democrat congressman gets arrested after getting trashed at Disney. And then she tells the cops she can do whatever she wants. Of course she can. Where did she possibly get the idea that she couldn't? And just to close out the not moronic category, students stage walkout in support of Second Amendment. Well, that's interesting. I guess it's okay to walk out if you are against the Second Amendment. But if you want to walk out for the Second Amendment, I bet you these kids will be in a heap of trouble. But they staged the walkout. And finally, kudos to David Axelrod. Now, he said that we should not, and David Axelrod, just so you know who he is the former political advisor to Obama. He is not a, he's liberal, but he says that the Democrats should be careful about trying to impeach Donald Trump on the basis of no impeachable crime. He's absolutely right, because he says that this is a way that you eliminate democracy. You see, if more people had the common sense in this instance that David Axelrod has, you'd have a more intelligent discussion of the issues. People think impeach means, I don't like the guy, so we're going to get rid of him. And that's stupid. It's the same thing as calling people you don't like names, like, you like the Second Amendment? You're in the NRA? You're a child murderer. No, you're not. A child murderer is a child murderer. A person who's in the NRA, supports the NRA, is not a child murderer. A person is not a racist because you disagree with them. So kudos to David Axelrod. Them should not commit to impeachment unless and until there's a demonstrable case for one. It's not just a matter of politics, it's a matter of principles. If we normalize impeachment as a political tool, it will be another hammer blow to our democracy. So, David Axelrod, you get the Not Moronic Prize of the Week. Probably the last time you'll receive that award from Smaulgld, but good work there. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will have out later in the day Smaulgld's Week in Review, in case you missed it, top gold, silver, and cryptocurrency stories, so please stay tuned for that.